to another fun edition of Wrestling POV Global. I'm your host, TJ Logan. With me, Elio Canella. Elio, I keep saying Elio or Elio. You correct me. What is it, buddy?
Well, you know what? It's either way. I have like this rule where if someone's been saying my name, saying Elio for a while, and I haven't said anything, I must really like that person because not many people get away with that. So it's either way.
Okay, I'm going to try and remember Elio. That's right? Is that the right one? Okay. I always want to call you everything in the book because I love talking wrestling with you. We get carried away, and you know what? This week, we're traveling around. There was a heck of a lot of wrestling this week, was there not, buddy?
I don't know how many hours of wrestling. I saw the MLW, I saw Final Battle, which I know was 4 hours. And, just like a lot of wrestling this week.
I'm glad I was kind of sick in bed because it gave me the opportunity to watch. There was a lot of shows, man. ROH was 4 hours. MLW was an hour. Impact was 2 hours. I even watched like about 6 to 8 hours of New Japan. So it was a pretty heavy wrestling week. Luckily, I was in bed for most of it, and I didn't pass in and out too much, so I remembered at least some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
I counted like 12 hours between Raw, SmackDown, Final Battle, MLW, TLC.
It's like a golden age, man. We are like, I remember as a kid, I would wish there was more wrestling on television. I would look for it everywhere. Right. These days, man, it is everywhere. And surprise, surprise, when it's not even the WWE, there's some good wrestling out there. And we're going to talk a bit about it, but let's start off with our rumblings of the week, okay? I'm going to start off with some of the news that I wanted to report this week coming up. It's been announced by Major League Wrestling, MLW, that they have signed on April 4th of this year, which is going to be an internationally great main event, LA Park versus Rush. This is a feud that has come up from Mexico. It has been dominating CMLL for quite a while. Now they're bringing it to America. I got to tell you, I am very excited. We're going to talk about Rush because we saw him on MLW this week. And LA Park, that's where it began. Yeah, LA Park was La Parka. Yep. Remember him? The big old, that's the same dude. He calls himself LA Park now because he was sued by AAA and they took away the La Parka name because they owned it. Okay. So now he's LA Park, but it is the same dude. So I find this exciting because I kind of enjoy luchador wrestling. Not tons of it, but really good quality stuff. And Rush, as we know, is the leader of Los Ignobles, the Mexican version.
Yes.
And
I'm going to try and say Los Ingobernables de Japón, de Mexico.
De Mexico, that is correct. And he is a talented wrestler that has not been seen a lot in the northern part of North America. Well, they know him a lot down in Mexico. He's not only their leader of that group, he's probably one of the best wrestlers out there. But I'd like to go on then. Let's take a look here. Over in ROH, it says that, you remember PCO? We were talking about him? Pierre-Carl Ouellet and Brody King have joined Marty Scurll in a stable, and they call themselves Villains Enterprise.
Villains Enterprise, yes, I heard about that.
And sticking with ROH for the moment, yet another great luchador wrestler being signed to ROH, Bandito, who a lot of people were wondering where he was going to end up, has signed exclusively with ROH for the next while. So another great luchador to keep our eyes on. Switching over to Evolve, who we don't really talk about a lot, but this one kind of made news, is Johnny Gargano, currently in NXT, will be doing 2 matches January 18th and 19th for Evolve. So that's going to be some exciting indie wrestling there.
I've never seen much Evolve, actually, but I've heard of many of the names. I know many of the names.
Evolve is, what's the best way to describe this? Evolve is sort of the kind of, it's like the NXT for NXT. You know how the NXT is for WWE? Well, they're sort of the feeder system for NXT at times. And they're a little bit smaller, have very intense crowds, but there's been some great names that have come out of Evolve over the last while. And Gargano used to compete quite regularly with them, so it's kind of a welcome home kind of thing for him. And I think the fans are going to be seeing some great stuff.
Speaking of NXT, while I was in Florida over the holidays, I started watching NXT UK.
Oh, yes. You know, that is something we're going to have to discuss, me and you, if we want to throw that on the plate. because I know the other show is not covering it. But that's an additional 2 hours of programming we're going to be adding to our thing. So,
well, I just thought I'd bring that up since we were talking about NXT and Evolve.
yeah, we're going to talk about that, me and you offline, and we'll figure out if the fans want, you know what, if you really want us to cover it, we have no choice. But right now we kind of have a choice, so we'll talk about it and see if we're willing to add an extra 2 hours of watching time every week to our already mammoth schedules. But you know what? It might work out, actually, because Impact is going on hiatus for 2 weeks, so who knows?
Okay.
But looking on, NWA champion Nick Aldis is getting ready to defend his title. Are you ready for this, man? This is mind-blowing. I hope you're... Elio, you had better be strapped in, because he is going against the incredible talent of Billy Gunn. What? Is there crickets in there? Billy Gunn? Is that guy still alive? Oh, my Lord. Nick Aldis, how much more... Yeah, he had James Ellsworth. How much more can you scrape the bottom of the barrel? Billy Gunn. And you wonder why the NWA Championship just really isn't looked at with the greatest respect sometimes. Whew.
I think that's going to lead into the face-off, because speaking of Billy Gunn... Because isn't he a name from the past?
Oh, I think he belongs in the past. But yes, you are right. My last bit of news comes out of even another territory, which makes news sometimes, but we don't really cover, is Absolute Intense Wrestling. They are booking on WrestleMania weekend. It's been announced that they're bringing over Japanese legend Shinjiro Atani to face Eddie Kingston for the very first time. This will be a very bloody brawl. Both men known to go quite extreme with their fighting. But it's enough to make news, and you know what? Who knows? Maybe we'll try and find... I think WrestleMania weekend's going to kill us, man. There's going to be so much indie wrestling. There's something like 120 shows booked over that weekend from indie places.
How do people do that? How do they watch all this wrestling?
I don't know.
I can't do it. Like, I have enough trouble watching Raw for 3 hours.
Well, yeah, you know what? I don't even try to watch Raw for 3. That's masochism, man. Don't do that to yourself. Raw
but SmackDown I have to watch because I cover that. So.
That I understand.
But even that one.
But Raw, man, Raw is like horrible. No. Ugh.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we don't have to cover that.
I'd rather catch up on indie wrestling on Monday nights.
Well, you know what?
There's like so much stuff on the Fight app.
I'm going to move over to the injury portion right now. The only 3 injuries that I have to look at, they're minor. They're all from MLW. And 2 of them involve one match that was scheduled. I don't know if you got a chance to watch some of that. We're not going to talk too much about their live special, but we had announced last week about the 4-way ladder match that was supposed to be going down. 3 of the guys in that match did not appear in that match. From the week we talked to the week it happened, 3 guys were injured, taken out of that match, and replaced.
Was that the Thursday or the Friday?
That would have been the Thursday thing, I believe. It was the one. It was the one. The 4-way man match for the mid heavyweight title. I had announced a bunch of guys, talked about them last week. Those guys all got injured before the match and replaced. Andrew Everett had his knee tweaked, was taken out. Koto Brazil had twisted ankle, taken out. As a result, the guy who won and who's now the new MLW mid heavyweight champion, who we'll probably talk about later on in episodes, but we will talk about him today because he showed up on MLW, was Teddy Hart, captured the MLW cruiserweight title, or mid-heavyweight title, if you will.
Teddy Hart. Last week was my first exposure to Teddy Hart. I had never seen him. I only heard the name before.
I will talk about him when we get there,
Brian Tillman Jr., yeah.
We'll talk about him, and we'll get there. And the last bit of injury is not really an injury per se, but apparently at the MLW weekend, Davey Boy Smith Jr. showed up. He had an extreme high fever, was extremely sick, but still managed to wrestle. People were pretty amazed backstage at how tough he was. He didn't want to miss it, so as sick as he was, he gutted it out and did the matches. So he's always been known as a tough man, so I guess he just proved it to everybody there.
Reminds me of Bret Hart going into his match with a fever.
Yeah, it's
at the Royal Rumble.
It's a Canadian thing, isn't it, bro? Canadians do not back down.
Even if I'm sick, I still went into work at the library.
Yeah, I've done that way too many times. Now, the last bit of rumblings today is a rumor, and I know this is kind of a vague rumor, but it's obvious. I mean, it's not... Okay, the rumor is ROH right now is very desperately scouring the indies, trying to pick up big-name guys if they can to replace all of the elite who's left.
Okay.
Yeah, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, ROH has signed a whole bunch of people, and they are still on the hunt for, I don't know, the next big star, I guess. It'll be interesting to see where this turns out, but, a lot of people were worried that the Elite leaving was going to cause ROH to fall apart. I don't think that's going to happen. Well, let's move on now to the New Japan Pro Wrestling Report. Now, we're in that little lull where it's just before Wrestle Kingdom, and so there's little things. Most of Wrestle Kingdom is set, and next week's episode, buddy, me and you are going to go over the entire card and make our predictions.
Okay. I went to get the entire card on Wikipedia, so I have it saved up here.
Excellent. It's just been officially released the other day, like 2 days ago by New Japan. We'll go over it together. We'll discuss. We'll see what we think is going to happen. But there are little minor things happening. And as it tends to, and I've explained this before, is when there's a big event coming, the Japanese New Japan likes to do the road to, they call them, which are basically like house shows that are setup shows for these shows. And right now they're on the road to Tokyo Dome. And a few things happen, little minor things that I just want to touch on because I find them interesting. And I wanted your opinion on it, okay? First of all, one of the big things is Chris Jericho, once again popping up, taking a chair and attacking Naito, Evil, and Sonata after their matches, brutalizing all three of them ahead of his match with Naito at the end of the month. Chris Jericho, once again proven that, he may be a veteran, he may be older, but he's definitely a guy to keep your eye on. What do you think?
Yeah, Chris Jericho was always looking to reinvent himself.
Well, right now, what do you think of this vicious character he's made himself this unpredictable, scary, for a first time in a long time, a real bad guy in Japan.
Yeah, I've never seen this Chris Jericho before.
Yeah, it's new to us all.
I like this Dark Jericho.
I think I do too. I think
with the face paint and all that,
and the viciousness and the total brawling, and
apparently they've started calling him Chris Jericho.
Oh, really?
Because he's been known to cuss during his promos or something. I read that somewhere online. I don't know how true that is, but
that's pretty amazing. You're right. The Chris Jericho of old was definitely fun and popular, but at his age and stuff, I don't know if he could really perform at that kind of level. And I think this new style, it's scary, it's a lot of brawling, it suits him better. And I think it'll take him even further.
And he also said if he were to come back to WWE, he wouldn't be doing the list anymore.
No?
Which I don't think that would work. I think it's run its course.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's one of those horrible things that people just kind of keep yelling out, like, what? Oh, God. All the idiots who want to yell out the dumb things I don't think it really works in the normal sense, but there's always a crowd for idiots, I guess. Moving on, one of the big storylines right now, too, is the dominance of the Bullet Club. And that's the Bullet Club right now, consisting of their leader, who's now Jay White, Switchblade Jay White, and the whole Tongans. Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Bad Luck Fale, and sometimes Haku. And the little guy, Ishimori. Now, the thing with these guys is, yes, they're kind of not the same Bullet Club we're used to from last year, but they've been causing a lot of damage, and the one who's been most of the, I guess, shit disturber, if you will, would definitely have to be Jay White. He has managed to betray his own stable and attack multiple stables to the point now, for the first time in a very long time, most of these stables are sending guys together and uniting to take on the Bullet Club. That's kind of cool when you see some 3 or 4 major factions going after Bullet Club.
I'm a little confused on the Bullet Club because on how many members, who's in the Bullet Club, who's not in the Bullet Club.
Okay, well,
because they keep switching people out.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at a definitive look at it. Right now, all of the guys who are in the Elite are no longer Bullet Club. Okay,
so Young Bucks are out.
Young Bucks are out. Kenny Omega out. Marty Scurll out. Hangman Page out. Cody out. Who is the current one right now? Like I said, the leader is Jay White, who betrayed Chaos and attacked Okada and then left. We know that Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga, so the Guerrillas of Destiny are in there. Bad Luck Fale is in there. Ishimori, the guy who's the Bone Soldier, he's in there. The only two that are kind of on the edge, and it's a little confusing if they still are, is the Japanese fella, I can't think of his name right now, the one who's the pimp, the Tokyo pimp. He kind of is floating in between with them. And Chase Owens is another dude who nobody said either if he's in or out. So that part's confusing.
Chase Owens, yep.
So
I've heard of Chase Owens.
So these guys, it's mostly the Tongan faction and Jay White and Ishimori that are really the ones that are running Bullet Club at the moment. And they have taken violence and anger to a whole new level, so much so that there are, like I said, it's been a long time since Chaos has, teamed with any other faction, and other guys have joined. We've seen like Los Ignobles team up with Chaos, team up with what's the other faction in there? Suzuki Gun. Members of each of these factions want to kill Bullet Club so much they're willing to put aside their differences. That to me is cool, but you got to wonder how much of a target that Bullet Club has put on their back. I mean, that's a lot of guys coming after you. If all of the factions decide to go after them, they're sunk. I mean, they barely have Suzuki Gun looking at them, but if that happens, Minoru Suzuki and his gang go after them, we're talking some messy fights here.
Minoru Suzuki looks legit badass, that guy.
He is a legit...
His whole look is like, okay.
He looks like he would beat up a nun walking down the street for just for fun. Just to hear her squeal,
Yeah.
But now here's my last bit I wanted to look at in New Japan this week. And that involves Kenny Omega and Ibushi, who together call themselves the Golden Lovers, which is already a very strange name for a tag team. But the Golden Lovers this week defeated the team of Will Ospreay and Hiroshi Tanahashi in a very well-placed tag team match, which is it's one of those preview matches New Japan likes to do, because we do know that Omega will be fighting Tanahashi at the end of the month at Wrestle Kingdom, and we know Ibushi will be putting his belt up against Will Ospreay at the end of the month. So it was those kind of match, But it was a very good match. However, there was something that happened in this match that has a few people kind of shaking their head, wondering if this is the start of the end of the Golden Lovers. During this match, Ibushi violently went to kick Ospreay, missed, and kicked Omega in the face and took him down for a minute. Omega finally did get back up. They got their moves in and took out the team, but it always seems like that's the start of a great tag team falling apart, when some guy actually unleashes a little too heavy on his partner. What do you think? Do you think this might be a crack in the armor of the Golden Lovers, or should we just ignore this and go on and look for the future?
I don't know, that is like a classic way of that you can tell a team might be splitting. So it's hard to see right now, but maybe it's going somewhere. Maybe it's just a one-time thing that happened accidentally.
Well, you know what? I think this might be a crack in the armor. I thought earlier this year when Ibushi and Omega had that one match where they it was a three-way match with them and I can't remember who else was in it, but with Cody. And I thought for sure that was going to be the match where Ibushi and Omega threw out their friendship out the window. Didn't happen then, but I think this is the start, and I think we're going to look at Ibushi down the road looking at Omega's belt. So you're right. It's a classic. It's never good when you accidentally nail your partner super heavy. It's okay to slap your partner by accident, but put a finishing maneuver on your partner or kick him in the face never usually works out very well.
Yeah.
Well, let's head over now to our Impact report. Impact this week, 2 hours of how am I going to describe it? There was some crap. There was some and there was some shitty wrestling. So let's be fair. There was one match in there that totally blew me away. We'll talk about that. Impact opens up Rich Swann defeating one of your favorite guys, I believe. You're a big fan of OVE, Dave Christ.
I'm sure you're mistaken.
Nobody is a fan of OVE. I'm pretty sure their mother throws things at the television when they come on. Anyways, Rich Swann defeats Dave Christ. This moves him forward for the place in the Ultimate X qualifier.
Okay.
It's interesting at the end of the match, and I kind of like the storytelling. I mean, the match was okay; it wasn't the greatest. You don't get a lot out of the Christs. Okay, they're not the best wrestlers. Rich Swann,
Right.
exciting. At the end of the match, OVE, of course, jumps in, starts kicking the crap out of Rich Swann. Willie Mack comes in for the save. He beats the crap out of everybody, but then when he grabs Sami Callihan, Rich Swann pulls him off, gets him out of there, and everyone's looking like crazy. Later on, Willie Mack confronts Rich Swann and said, "Why did you pull me off Sami Callihan?" And he said,
I'm asking that right now.
Yeah, and he said, "Well, you know what? I've been down this road with Sami before. I don't want to get involved in his crap. If we fight him now, he's going to be on us forever. I want nothing to do with Sami or OVE. I won my match. Let's just move on."
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that there's definitely going to be a lot of stuff between OVE and these guys, and that's probably the beginning of something bad. Our next match was another Ultimate X qualifier. Trey Miguel, a newer type wrestler for Impact, beating Trevor Lee. Not too surprising since we know Trevor Lee is actually leaving the company. This was his last match with Impact. Good match, pretty short. Let's not even say good. It was there, okay? It was a match. But moving on, for me, the match of the night. And, man, I love this. Coming up, we know that the Lucha Brothers have decided, LAX has offered the Lucha Brothers a title shot. Today, they had one of each of the members. They had Santana taking on Phoenix. And I got to tell you, the more I see Phoenix, man, this guy does some crazy stuff. This match had everything. There was a point where he ran across the ropes and then punt Santana in the face after running across the ropes in the middle of the rope. It was amazing. There were so many things in there that I have never seen, and I've seen a lot of wrestling matches. Phoenix put on an incredible show. Now, he was injured just after this match had been taped. They tell me now that the groin injury does not look as severe as they thought it was, so he will be back in less than a month. Good news for them. Unfortunately, it did take the Lucha Brothers out of their MLW tag shot that they were supposed to have on the Friday show last week. He was still injured then, but man, folks, if you're going to watch only one thing on this entire Impact show, watch Phoenix versus Santana. There is some wrestling in there that just, when you see that really new kind of wrestling that just makes you gasp and go, oh, wow, I just saw a treat. Yeah. Go out and watch that match. Awesome stuff. Moving on, and I know that Tony hates the moving on thing, but in our next match, Jordan Grace tearing apart Ruby Reyes, and that was a tall order because Ruby Reyes, big woman, but Jordan Grace showing that she may be only 5 feet tall, but she is a powerhouse of a weightlifter. And she actually threw Ruby Reyes around, and Ruby's got to be at least 250. She's a big woman. And
that's the new one that was brought in by Katrina.
Yeah. She did not succeed. I do not think we'll see Ruby Reyes probably again by Katrina. And finally, the main event. And I'm going to have to say I've been extremely hard on this fella. But Moose gets a DQ win over Brian Cage. Now, this was Brian Cage getting ready for his title shot against Johnny Impact next month. Moose trying to show that he was going to be the spoiler of this. Moose is really starting to make an impression on me more than me just mocking him about squirrels and Russians and other bullwinkle things. Moose is actually, he's really improved in his wrestling. This match went really well until Eddie Edwards, who supposedly, if you're following the ridiculous storylines in Impact, that he escaped an insane asylum.
I was going to say, what was going on there? Because I saw, and of course, we see another ECW superstar, Raven, showing up in that vignette. Like, what happened there? How did he get put in that asylum or something?
What ended up happening a couple of weeks ago is his wife had him committed because she felt he was getting too violent and crazy, so they snuck up on him and they injected him in the neck with something. They put him in this insane asylum where just happens to be Raven is in there. And you're right, I skipped over that one, but there was a little vignette with Eli Drake talking about how he's going to destroy, I can't believe I'm going to even say this guy's name is still around, but he's going to destroy Tommy Dreamer. Boo, hiss, I hope that guy's still alive. But the whole point with Raven is he came in and said, Raven, you started all this hardcore stuff and it's going to die with you. And it was funny because all this serious stuff he was saying to Raven was acting like he had no idea what anything was about. And It had a funny moment.
Did you notice the name of that asylum?
No, I did not. What was it?
Shady Acres.
Shady Acres.
Do you know where that's from? Do you know where that's from?
It is from a lot of references from a lot of. I cannot remember the original, but I mean they've used it in so many things.
The one that comes to mind is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, when Jim Carrey's going to investigate that police lieutenant or whatever, Einhorn.
And she was,
and he goes to the town that she grew up from, that she came from. He went to Shady Acres mental hospital.
That is funny. Because there's also Shady Acres in The Simpsons where they've made fun of a few people who have gone to Shady Acres, and it's one of those generic funny insane asylums you throw out anywhere, I guess.
No, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, wow, the reference in Ace Ventura.
It was. I try and skip a lot of the segment parts of Impact because they're terrible. I mean, I don't want to talk about Evil Alley and Sue Young and the Dimension of Dark. No. Forget that crap. I'm not. You probably.
That's just terrible.
It's just terrible. This Raven stuff and Eli Drake. It was terrible. I wish sometimes Impact. Sometimes you want some bit of realism in story, but they need better writers because it just comes across as like a bunch of 12-year-olds watching Ace Ventura decided to write the dialogue. It's so bad here. But
you mentioned the name earlier, Trey Miguel.
Yes.
Now, who are the Little Rascals? Because I thought he was part of that.
I think you're right. The Desmond Xavier. I think it is Trey Miguel. I'm not. You know what? The Rascals.
Because then I saw him on MLW as well.
Yeah. I think I don't know how these Rascals are going to work out. I don't know if I like the approach they're taking. Sure, it's different, but just because something is different doesn't mean it's good. Obviously, the Rascals have some talent behind them, but I think they're doing very ridiculous mannerisms and acting. And if you could call that ridiculous vignettes, they do acting. Once again, another vignette I chose to ignore was the whole Rascals thing.
Yes.
Folks, if you're into wrestling, there is some good stuff in Impact. Check out Phoenix versus Santana. If you're a fan of cheesy crap, 90s bullshit raw storyline, by all means, watch Impact. But if you have a brain, I would suggest not, because it might rot and fall out of you after watching some of this. Right now, Impact goes on to a 2-week hiatus, which means, and I'm not covering them. We're not covering the best of shows for the next 2 weeks. No way.
No,
that's crap.
We're just repeating ourselves.
Yeah. So what we might do is, you know what? Maybe we'll take on NXT, the English one, UK. Let's try it out for 2 weeks, and if we find that the fans or that we're enjoying it enough, we'll work it into the program. Does that sound fair?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, you know what? I do know at this moment, I was handed a special interview from our UK correspondent who has a special interview with Flip Gordon. Now, folks...
Oh, Flip Gordon.
Flip Gordon. 2 months ago, if you told me I had an interview with Flip Gordon, I might have just twirled my finger and went, wow, big deal. Flip Gordon has come into his own the last little while. I am impressed a lot with what I've been seeing with this guy. We're going to talk about him in the ROH segment as it comes up after the break.
Yep.
But he is really making a presence. I see him as a main event guy in the future. I might not have 2 or 3 months ago, but he has come on strong. So let's talk with Flip Gordon. Folks, when we get back, we'll talk for a sec, and then we'll take a break.
All right.
Hi, Flip. Welcome to Wrestling POV podcast. Welcome to the UK once again. How are you finding it so far?
It's been great. Believe it or not, this is my 8th time over here in the UK. It was really fun so far. Fight Forever. Yesterday we had our first show in Birmingham. I won the World Championship. Tonight I had a successful title defense against none other than London's own Mark Haskins. So
yeah, congratulations on that.
It's been a great tour so far.
Yeah, it was a great match tonight.
Thank you.
So obviously you've heard the recent news about the UK scene and WWE tying up a lot of the indies and preventing them from being on the independent shows like this. What's your kind of view on that? You think it's going to damage the industry in the UK, or?
Absolutely not. When you look at professional wrestling, the wrestling scene here in the UK is hot right now. WWE is the biggest professional wrestling company in the world. For them not to come to a market that is succeeding would be a bad business move. For them, it is strictly a business move. But we just had a great show tonight. The crowd was fire. It was packed. So, and there was, hey, guess what? There was NXT UK guys on this show. So there's a lot of rumors going out there. I don't know what their contracts say. You don't know what their contracts say. Let's wait it out. Let's see what happens. But if you ask me, I think British wrestling is going to be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely turned a corner in the last few years. I mean, gone are the days of Big Daddy and all the old kind of comedy wrestling as it's known. It's definitely on par now, I'd say, with the US market.
Absolutely, and WWE's been picking up some of the biggest stars all over the world for years now. What that does, it opens up opportunities for younger talent like myself, and you better believe I'm going to take full advantage of those opportunities.
That's it. Obviously, Cody was here tonight as well. The rumours, obviously, of him setting up his own federation, All Elite Pro. What's your views on that? Any news? Any exclusives?
Well, the only exclusive I can give you is that I will be exclusive with Ring of Honor until May of 2020. Like I said, there's a lot of rumors about Cody, a new company, British Wrestling. They are just that. They are rumors. Until we know facts, they're rumors. So I don't know nothing.
So obviously you've got the men's championship here. I mean, are you coming back? I know you've obviously got probably another title defence tomorrow night, but I know they're touring again in January. Will you be returning again, hopefully, with them? Or?
That is the goal. I am the champion. I do not plan on losing. I would love to come back to England as much as I can, even if that means every single month to make a title defense.
You're not going to do a Brock Lesnar on us then and be an absent champion? Yeah.
Nope. I am a fighting champion. I'm a defending champion. Anybody that wants to fight, let me know. I'll show up.
Cool, man. And obviously, all your work on being the Elite, that's a great show. Obviously with the Young Bucks as well. Obviously if they're not exclusive to Ring of Honor, like you just mentioned yourself, do you see that putting a strain maybe on your relationship going forward? Or?
Absolutely not. I mean, we're all friends. I mean, Marty's still with Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
I talk to the boys all the time. Being the Elite is, like they say, it's just friends having fun. It is so authentic, you know, and I think that shows through you watch it. You can see us laughing after scenes. We're just having fun, and that's what wrestling's about, is having the fun, traveling the world with your friends.
Yeah, man. And last few questions, obviously, what would be your dream opponent, or dream match? Anything?
My dream match right now on the independents would have to be Rey Fenix. Because we have never touched, but we are very, very good friends, and he's absolutely killing it all over the world. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. So yeah, Rey Fenix, I'm calling you out once again.
That would be an absolutely fantastic match. I think your two stars would really blend well and really would put on a good match there. And yeah, I mean, lastly, I'd just like to say, obviously, thank you for what you've done for the UK. It's definitely changed from what the WWE product is at the minute, in terms of targeting more of the older audience, and that's showing through. I mean, it was a packed venue tonight, and I mean, rumours are to be believed that WWE are really struggling at the minute with their Raw and SmackDown shows. Do you think that's probably just due to the kind of audience they're targeting, or?
I think wrestling fans right now, they're looking for something different. You know, they want something different, and the indies are different. Whether that's British wrestling, American wrestling, Lucha Libre down in Mexico, or Strong Style over in Japan, they want something different. So long as there's something different out there, like I said before, wrestling's going to be fine everywhere.
Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So
Have a great night. Bye.
Wow, that was quite the interview. That Flip Gordon, man, I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. What do you think, Elio?
Yeah, that was quite the interview. I'm liking Flip Gordon a lot. He's starting to grow on me.
You know what?
He's starting to grow on me. First time I heard the name and saw him was at the All In pay-per-view. And
okay. Well, we'll talk a bit about after our break. We're actually going to take a break right now, fans. We're going to reset ourselves for a second, get ready for the second part of our show where we're going to talk ROH, Major League Wrestling. And I believe me and Elio are going to pull out a bit of a debate today and see where that leads us. So, folks, be back in a moment.
Hello, this is Miguel Cole from the Wrestling POV podcast. Wrestling POV and Wrestling POV Global is affiliated with the Collar and Elbow brand. Go to collarandelbowbrand.com and save yourself 10% by using promo code WPOV. Collar and Elbow has t-shirts, hoodies, sunglasses, and more. And the best part, you're helping out your local indie wrestlers. And you're helping out the best wrestling podcast of all, Wrestling POV and Wrestling POV Global. You don't want to miss out. So save yourself 10% by using promo code WPOV. Oh my goodness!
This is Flip Gordon, and you are listening to Wrestling POV Podcast.
Hey folks, we are back. And let's take a look at ROH. This week was a big event for ROH. We're talking about, what's it called, buddy?
Final Battle 2018.
Final Battle.
Yes.
Final Battle 2018. Kind of the culmination of the year for Ring of Honor. We're not going to look at every match, but we're going to look at most of them, talk a bit about them. I want to start off with the match that, for me, was the first really good match. ROH TV champion Jeff Cobb defeating Hangman Adam Page. Man, this was a great match.
Jeff Cobb can move around.
Jeff Cobb.
He can move around the ring.
Oh, can he ever? This guy is something else. I'm really enjoying Jeff Cobb. I've known him from before. I've watched him progress from across Hawaii. Back in the day, he was with Action Zone Wrestling. He's been going across. This year, he won the Battle of Los Angeles for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And now he's made a few appearances in New Japan, which are very much interested in having him back. Him and Michael Elgin have made a very solid tag team there. But here's the big thing to look at. He is the ROH TV champion. And this match, well, some people say may not have, the ending may not have come into any question. Hangman Adam Page, his last match in ROH, wanting to take the ROH TV championship with him. Dude, this match was off the hook. There was some crazy stuff. Highlight for me, Adam Page with that, his run off the skirt into a standing super, what do you call that thing? Shooting star press.
Yep.
Jeff Cobb catches him and then throws him overhead into a release suplex onto the floor.
I know, I
Never saw that
before.
before.
Was crazy, wow.
And it's incredible how big Jeff Cobb is. And he's like a tank, yet he moves around. He really moves.
Some of these big guys surprise me with how they move around the ring.
Well, Jeff Cobb, I think the TV championship is just the beginning. I think he has potential to be a main eventer in ROH. And I think it's only a matter of time before he's going to take a run at the ROH title. Well, next up we had, I'm not sure how to, I love women's wrestling, but I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of the Women of Honor matches. Kelly Klein wins a 4-way to become the new Women of Honor champion, but it just seems to me that there's not a lot of strong women wrestlers in ROH to begin with. Sumi Sakai, she's okay, but she's so old and so slow. And Madison Rayne, while she's pretty and exciting, is not the most gifted wrestler. And Karen O, I just don't buy Karen O.
Is it Karen O or Karen Q?
Is it Q?
I believe it was Karen Q.
Maybe it's Q.
I believe it was Karen Q.
Wow, that's how much I checked out. She's so generic.
The Final Battle was my first exposure to the Women of Honor, but I wasn't really feeling that match, though. No.
Compared to the WWE women's roster, the Women of Honor roster is nothing special. It's not that great. I've met Kelly Klein. I've seen her wrestle before. She's very talented. Let's hope they bring her in some better competition. Let's hope that they can build that into a big division. At one time, Gail Kim was their champion, and she was an incredible wrestler. And there were some great wrestlers against her. I really think we need to see if they can build something out of this women's. I wouldn't really recommend watching this match if it was something you wanted to judge the pay-per-view by, because it wasn't that great. A match, though, that kind of surprised me was Zack Sabre Jr. beating Jonathan Gresham. What did you think of that match, man? That was a different kind of match. I gotta tell you.
That was different. I've seen Zack Sabre. I know the name, and he's. I like his style. That was just that was.
You like that kind of strong English style, the whole technical aspect stuff.
Or just some of the matches, yeah. Some of the matches are pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I've seen
a lot
of that, in that NXT UK.
In the
NXT UK one.
Yeah.
They do all that stuff.
Well, it's the style that Marty Scurll uses a lot. Zack Sabre Jr., isn't there just something so snotty about that guy that you just wish once somebody would punch him right in the face and knock his stupid
See,
teeth
I
out?
like the wrestling. I don't like the guy. He just has that look
he
like
is a total
I want
dick.
to punch him in the face.
I kind of like Jonathan Gresham. He's a smaller dude, but he really has a great technical base behind him. This match, it was like Zack Sabre just kept taunting and taunting. I just wanted once to see him get punched in the face.
And just the ending when he was walking back up the ramp, that look he had on his face, like, I'm better than you.
Yeah. Zack Sabre makes a great villain.
Yeah.
He has some interesting matches. I still want him at least once to see him get punched in the face by somebody. That'd be my day.
He's a heel. Yeah.
He's a heel of heels.
I wasn't sure if he was a heel or a face.
Oh, no, he's a heel all the time,
okay.
buddy. Nobody likes him. He acts like such a smug dick that it's not even funny. Next matchup, Matt Taven defending his fake belt that he declared himself championship against Dalton Castle. This did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I thought Castle was going to get the win here. Matt Taven, though, I've made fun of Matt Taven a lot in the past. He was one of those guys. Him and the whole Kingdom were guys are like, ugh. But they're kind of worn on me too. And I kind of enjoy Matt Taven. He's really wrestling at a way higher level than he used to.
Matt Taven, I have to say, because last week I was lost when we were talking about the Kingdom. But now, after seeing Final Battle, now I know who the Kingdom is. Vinny Marcellia, Matt Taven. I didn't know the third guy, TK Orion, though.
Yeah, that's the guy who carries a baseball bat. Apparently he was a college baseball player before he came in.
But yeah.
That's his gimmick, I guess. They're all good. They're all very good wrestlers together now. The Kingdom is really gelled into a pretty... They're not pretty. They're definitely ugly looking, especially that Marcellia guy with the gross hair and tattoos. But they are legit now. I see them as a legit team, and I do finally see Matt Taven. For me, this was probably the match that cemented Matt Taven in as a real solid wrestler. So I think this did what it set out to do.
Right.
All right. Next, the villain, Marty Scurll, and this was a shocker for a lot of people, defeating Christopher Daniels. Now, the reason why this was a shocker is if Daniels didn't, this was his last chance to win a contract. According to storyline, this might be it. That might be the last match we saw of Christopher Daniels. I don't think so. I think the story will happen somewhere.
I would say I felt bad when I saw Final Battle, but I read some ROH results of an upcoming show where Joe Koff had changed his heart and offered Daniels a new contract.
Well, that will be interesting. We're going to have to. They'll definitely have that coming up. Great match. It's nice to see Daniels for the last little while being a good guy, being cheered on, because he's such a smooth transition wrestler. You just want to shake his hand afterward. I actually did. Ilio, last year I met him, Christopher Daniels, at a show in Calgary, and I just went up to him and said, "Man, I just want to thank you for all the years of you were like the coolest thing to see, And you come on the cards, and sometimes you dress up as Curry Man, and you do that little shtick, and then you come back and wrestle again. Love it. You're the most entertaining guy." And he looked at me and go, "Who's Curry Man?"
Who's Curry Man?
Yeah, right.
Was he also suicide at one point?
I think he was just for a tiny bit, but then it was taken over by that fella,
TJ Perkins.
the guy who won TJ Perkins. Yeah. So Kazarian was also suicide for a little while too.
I didn't get that whole ending. Bully Ray came out and low-blow Daniels.
Oh, he was just coming out to be. Bully Ray is just trying to establish how much of an asshole he is.
So I was. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking he was just setting up for the next match, which was him and Flip.
Yeah, Flip. Yeah, that's all it was. He is the ultimate trash piece of garbage bad guy there is, and he is just doing that by. Daniels is trying to go out classy, so of course he has to come in and try and crap on that moment. That's what that was all about. Next, we're talking about Flip Gordon a bit. Let's talk about this match. Flip Gordon defeating Bully Ray in an I Quit match. This was bloody, it was brutal, and I think this is a match that made Flip Gordon. I think people will look at Flip Gordon in a much stronger light. This elevated him to such a degree. It made him credible as a heavyweight.
Everyone was against Bully Ray in that match. Kerry Silken, Todd Sinclair was against him. Everyone. Colt Cabana.
Man, everybody.
Colt Cabana even left.
Christopher Daniels, yeah.
Cabana even left the commentator's booth and went down to help out.
Yes, Colt Cabana out there trying to lend a hand. Silas Young is the only person who looked like more of a piece of crap than Bully Ray out of this. But you know what? Flip is a guy who when I first heard of Flip Gordon, just the idea that a guy would call himself Flip is ridiculous to begin with. And you got to know as things get better, he's either going to change his name or really regret calling himself Flip. Such a silly sounding name. But he really is, he's talented.
Yeah.
He really moves around there. He has a lot of moves I've never seen before. And I think, he took a lot of beating here. He was bloodied pretty badly. But at the end, what a sight, eh? Him beating the crap out of Bully with 2 kendo sticks until Bully gave up. It was the payoff that I think all of us have wanted to see against Bully Ray in a long time.
You hear Bully screaming, I quit.
Good stuff. Takes us to the semi-main event. Jay Lethal beats Cody, sends Cody packing without a belt. I enjoyed this match. There was a lot of weird moments in this match that at times maybe, I don't know, I didn't get. I mean, there was a time when
I noticed Brandy Rhodes got knocked out.
Well, first Brandy Rhodes comes running in there to spear to spear Jay. Jay moves out of the way. The referee sees it, goes to throw the title out like the match. Jay's like, nope, I don't want to lose that way. Or I don't want to win that way. So he gives her the chance out. He then goes to put the lethal injection on Cody. Cody throws his wife into it. She eats a lethal injection, gets smacked out. She's knocked out cold. It was something, but in the end, Jay Lethal standing proud. Cody, last match in ROH, went out. The fans loved him, but he did not go out with the belt. I would suggest watching this match.
The story there was that he doesn't care what happens to his wife.
Yeah, all he cares about is the belt.
He hasn't even gone to check on her.
Yeah, they kept making a point of that. That was pretty funny. I kind of laughed because she interjected herself. In some ways, she kind of got what she deserves. As bad as that sounds. Now, the main event. This ladder wars are always insane. And this one, the Briscoe brothers winning their 10th ROH Championship Tag Team belts, defeating SCU, SoCal United, and the Young Bucks, their last match in ROH. The story here, the Briscoes were just going to beat the living snot out of everyone before they even bothered trying to get the thing. It was crazy. They were like bulls on a rampage in there.
Yeah, the Briscoes are quite a team. They're quite the odd team there.
So destructive. I mean, 10 years, we've talked about how they rarely team anywhere else.
Yep.
They were something to watch in here. I mean, the Young Bucks, they're always a spectacle. And I've always, SoCal U, I've always liked these guys.
Yeah.
But the Briscoes, man, they were the stars of the show, and they did some crazy stuff in there. They did some painful stuff. They took a beating. They handed out way worse beatings, and they walked away. Sorry?
They did that one spot where they put the leather on their neck and swung it around.
Yeah, the old Terry Funk ECW thing.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. There's just so much, overall this whole 4-hour show was worth it. I mean, there's a few weak spots. The women's match wasn't the greatest. The first match was kind of dumb. I'm not even going to talk about...
The first match sucked.
Yeah, well, it's Kenny King, and everything he does sucks. But I think all in all, I would suggest people to watch this if you get a chance to replay for Ring of Honor because for Final Battle 2018. Great stuff. And it kind of makes me excited watching Jeff Cobb, watching Marty Skrull, watching the Briscoes. Makes me think they're going into another great year. I'm curious to see what guys rise up to the top. I don't think the Elite really made ROH. They were a good part of ROH, but I don't think ROH is going to fold over and die without them.
No, ROH is going to move on. They're going to do well. Any company would survive. Any company should they change with times.
Yeah, you have to change or you go stale.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to look at our last promotion today is MLW.
MLW.
Major League Wrestling. Now, we looked at this week's episode, and it had 3 matches. 2 of them were good. 1 of them was ridiculous. First of all, Teddy Hart. You tell me this is the first time you've seen Teddy Hart.
Last week was my first time seeing Teddy Hart. I only ever heard the name before.
And you probably heard a lot of bad things about Teddy Hart, his reputation backstage.
I heard about how he likes to carry, he bring cats to the ring. He wanted to open his own company at one point where it was all pets or something.
Yes. I have an interview that, folks, if you guys actually want to hear, it's 9 or 7 minutes of the most ridiculousness mind-blowing. You're going to think, did I make this up? Did he make this up? I interviewed Teddy Hart about 6 or 7 years ago, and the nonsense this guy said in this interview, he talked about training his cats to bring weapons to the ring.
Yes, that's what I was referring to.
And just a all bunch of crazy, crazy stories. Now, I've known Teddy Hart for probably about 7 or 8 years. He is a phenomenal wrestler to watch when he wrestles. He does things that you've never seen before. But he is probably one of the most unstable, lunatic-like guys in real life that you've ever met. And the first time I interviewed him, I remember him saying all this stuff. And I remember I was going to start laughing. And then I looked over at him and I saw the look on his face. And I thought, if I laugh, this guy's going to stab me in the throat with something. Like, he's not kidding around.
Wow.
He's believing his own fantasy land. But great wrestler, and I'm glad that this last little while now he seems to have turned his life around a bit, and he's been getting a lot of good bookings and doing some great matches, especially in MLW. He's finally getting a showcase. You know, did you know, Elio, he's been fired from the WWE 3 times?
When was he a part of it? I never.
He never made the television. He was signed 3 different times, and each time he did something horrendous that they fired him before he actually made it to television.
I did not know that.
He has a reputation of not listening, to do his own thing, to, all the stuff that WWE does not like to look at in wrestlers. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that he is probably the most talented guy I've ever actually met. And I hope he gets his stuff together. I hope he keeps going the way he's going, because he's finally making himself a legitimate showcase wrestler with the stuff he's doing in MLW. Now, this week he took on Jason Cade. And I remember when I first looked and I was watching the episode and I saw it was Jason Cade that first came out, I was like, I don't want to report this because I just explained last week how Jason Cade was injured. But MLW is 2 weeks behind in their TV. Oh. So he was injured after this match.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't going to say anything, but then when it was Teddy Hart, and Teddy did such a good showing, I thought we are going to have to talk about it anyways. So yes, Teddy Hart defeats Jason Cade. I know you watched this match. What did you think?
Well, like you said, Teddy Hart, he does a lot of great moves, but it wasn't like an outstanding match. It was okay. It was a good match. It wasn't like anything spectacular.
No, it was solid, good. Teddy did a few interesting maneuvers.
Now, my question is, why he's teaming with Brian Pillman Jr., right?
Yes.
Why do they call themselves the Hart Foundation?
Well, because, they're the relatives of the original Hart Foundation. Because Davey Boy Smith Jr. is in there. And Davey Boy Smith...
Oh, he's part of them. Okay.
Yeah, he's a part of that, too. He hasn't been on TV with them very much, but he is part of that.
Oh, okay.
Brian Pillman... Well, remember, Brian Pillman did join the Hart Foundation when...
He did in 97, yep.
Yeah. So, I guess, they call themselves the New Hart Foundation because they're the kids of all these guys.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Now,
I know this next part probably broke your heart. I know you're watching your favorite wrestler, Marco Stunt, get beat up by Ace Romero. 400 pounds of Ace Romero squishing tiny little Marco. Marco, is it Runt or Stunt? I can't. Runt seems more... Runt. What the heck? Does this guy got pictures of the MLW's owner doing something bad? Why do they keep letting this idiot on TV every week? He loses badly, gets beat up.
I can't believe he's 5'2". I'm 5'2". I'm taller than him.
Hey, maybe you should team up with Marco Runt. You can pretend to be brothers, Marco and Elio Runt. What do you think?
Wow. he might actually have a shot at winning a match.
I don't think he ever has a shot at winning a match. Come on, man. They put him in there with 400-pound Ace Romero.
No, I said he might have a shot at winning a match if they put me with him.
Oh, you mean against each other? I thought you'd want to be his pal.
No. If they put us in a team.
Yeah. I don't know, guys. Marco, maybe I'm just not seeing it, but Marco Stunt,
Have you heard his entrance theme?
Yes, it's terrible.
I heard this. I saw this on one of the comments on YouTube because I was looking up his theme just to hear it. Someone said that's a slowed down version of the closing theme from Sesame Street.
I'm going to look back and listen next time that you've told me that. I'm going to see if I think the same, and I'll tell you before next week if I think I agree.
Okay.
All right. So
I have to say sorry about Ace Romero.
Yeah.
That's another guy that can move around the ring. When he threw that drop kick from out of the corner.
a shotgun drop kick from a 400-pound man. That was pretty cool.
I was like, what?
And unfortunately for Marco Stunt, he only weighs 37 pounds, so he really went flying. But once again, we watched Marco Stunt get beat up by a bigger man.
Yeah.
In the main event, I was super impressed in the main event. Leader of Los Ignobles de Mexico, Rush,
Yes.
taking on Sammy Guevara, another kind of snot-nosed, mouthy Latino wrestler. This was something else. That Rush really knows how to move. I'm very impressed by him. This is the first time I've seen him in action, and I was impressed.
Yep, same. I was impressed with the way he moves around the ring. And then at the end, this is where I believe they started the feud with LA
Park. Yeah.
Because LA Park came out at the end.
Well, I think this is going to be really interesting, folks. LA Park, wow, talk about a veteran. And this isn't just a thrown together match. I mean, Rush and LA Park have been fighting for years in Mexico. This is a feud that they even talk about. We're bringing it to the U.S. We're showing the people our hatred. So I'm looking forward to this. Let's see how this progresses. This week's episode of MLW, well, we had 2 out of 3 great matches. One of them was okay, but Marco Stunt ruined it all for me. I say give MLW thumbs somewhat up. It was an okay episode.
Between thumbs up and thumbs in the middle.
You know what the best part for me is? I know like sometimes we see segments that are so ridiculous or so unbelievable, but the one segment I enjoyed the most was when they were talking about, I wonder what happened to Tom Lawler. We should take the camera crew backstage. And Conan says, hey, do you want an exclusive? And he goes around the corner, and there's a guy laying there blooding out of his mouth and his nose.
That was Ricky Martinez.
Yeah, and then Conan throws down a sock and a bicycle lock and walks away with the idea that he had taken him and hit him in the face with the sock. And I was like, wow, that was kind of cool and brutal, to be honest.
And then low-key at the end, he was like, Ricky, what happened? Who did this?
Who did this, Ricky? I will use my honor. I am whatever. I'm not going to even get started this week on that guy. Anyhow, you know what? That wraps up a lot of the wrestling we're going to talk about this week. But this is the time of the show where we have our bit of a face-off. This week's face-off, we talked about, when we were trying to pick out topics. Here's one that's kind of interesting. The topic is this. Do so-called legends, are they draws today for independent wrestling cards? Are they worth the money to bring these guys in to sentiment shows? Is it worth going to? Elio, you tell me what you think. Is it worth in this day and age to have legends, so-called legends, on indie cards?
Okay, in 2018, I don't really think legends are drawn indie cards because the history of wrestling, which produced these so-called legends, today's audience, they'll go to these shows, but I don't think they care about the legends as much as they care about the wrestlers of today. They're more interested in today's superstars than they are in the ones that paved the way for today's wrestling.
Okay, well, I agree with some of those parts, but I'm going to say this, just from knowing in personal experience, I've gone to shows where there's been a legend, and usually these men are in their 60s. 9 times out of 10, they have absolutely no involvement in the ring. You're lucky if they even walk one of the wrestlers out to the ring. Right. So in that aspect, I can say, they're really not worth it. But I've always been a historian of wrestling. I love looking back and looking at some of the older things. And some of my favorite old-time wrestlers, sure, I know they'll never be able to fight again. They'll never have that opportunity to stand there. But the opportunity to actually get to talk to one of these guys. I mean, last year I got a chance to sit down and talk for 10 minutes with Nikita Koloff. He was amazing. And if there was no room to bring in one of these guys, I mean, we would lose some of that, I think. And one thing I did notice, there were people who came to the show that I was at with Nikita Koloff that had never come to regular wrestling. That the name Nikita Koloff was enough to draw them in to come see a new wrestling show. For me, I think maybe putting the legends in there is worth it. If we can bring in people who only remember the olden days of wrestling, maybe when they come in and they see what's new, maybe they're going to stay. And if you can just bring in a couple fans who are going to stay, well, I think that's worth the bucks you shell out for an older performer who can't really do anything except maybe sign autographs. Yes, I get your fact, what you're saying. It's kind of frustrating to think you paid money to see Brutus the Barber Beefcake and he didn't do anything. I get that.
Yep.
But at the same time, the idea of bringing in a guy who will take a few minutes to talk to you, pretty darn cool. So I'm going to say, sorry?
But then, what about some of the legends that you do bring in, and you find that the way they are in front of the camera is not the way they are off camera? Because what about that one thing about never meet your heroes? Because you have an impression of the way they are on camera, but then when you meet them in real life, they're the complete opposite.
Okay, fair enough. But does that mean never try to meet your heroes? Because there's a market for that. You take the chance every time. For every wrestling, I have met a lot of legends over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Guys who are retired, guys who are big name guys who seem like they'd be total jerks and they're not, and the guys who are nice on camera and total jerks behind the stage. I get that. But you know what? Just the chance to meet them, warts and all, sometimes has been worth it, because at least I know.
Right.
So folks, what do you think? Do you think that legends are are they a draw in this day and age? Should they be a draw? Should promoters bother bringing them in, or should they, do bring them in? You tell us on Facebook page. We'll try and, we're not going to put up a poll because we're too shy and modest to poll it out, but you just tell us what you think, folks. Anyways, Elio, I am down to my last sip of water. It's good Canadian cold water. It's been a great episode with you. We spent a lot of time watching wrestling separately this week, and thank you.
I think like I said, 12 hours last week. I'm like, I don't know how I did it.
And I've done at least 12 to 14 hours this week too, and I don't know if I'll be able to do that for next week, but we'll figure it out.
I don't know if you play. If you've seen WWE Supercard.
Ooh, no.
It's an app. It's an app for the iPad. It's like a card playing game thing, and you have teams.
Okay.
And you have teams, and it's like, I'm on this team, so like I play. It's just fun, right? When I have time. So between watching wrestling, notifications going off every 2 seconds, I have to mute people because they're just like interrupting me. I'm trying to watch this here.
That is great, and I want to thank you this week, Elio, for putting in all this time. It was a bit of a chore, but we got through it.
It was fun.
Next week, fans, we will not be talking about Impact because we are not going to cover a clip show. We'll be talking instead a bit about NXT UK, see how that turns out for us. We'll keep our eye on the wrestling that's out there. Elio, thank you for joining in this week. I want to say it's always a pleasure hanging with you. And folks,
it's fun. I like it. I like doing this.
Excellent. And folks, I'm your host, TJ Logan. We'll see you. I'm not sure when next week. It's Christmas right away. I'm not sure what chance we're going to get to do the next episode. We will do one before Wrestle Kingdom. We will talk about those cards, and we'll keep a track of everything that's going on in the world of indie wrestling. So, folks, thanks for tuning in.
Yes, I was...
Sorry? Go ahead, Elio.
No, I was going to say, when you said next week, that was the first thought that came to mind. Next week's Christmas.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out when we're going to do this. We'll let people know. We'll figure something out.
All right, sounds good.
All right, have yourself a great night, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right, see you next time.